Recording is on.
So welcome everyone to the fourth meeting of the Mastering the Lightning Network reading group. And today we're going through chapter 4, and Steve has graciously agreed to help us through this chapter, which mainly revolves around Docker and getting nodes going. So I think the format will be a bit different than the previous weeks because it's more practical than theory, but I hope we have a good session.
Cool.
So go ahead, Steve.
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, it's going to not be quite as polished, but what I did was I went through the chapter, and then at the very end of the chapter, so basically it looks like he spends a lot of time, in the chapter, he spends a lot of time about setting up Docker and then going and basically running running Bitcoin D, and then each of the Lightning nodes via Docker, and then also compiling and building them locally. So I don't think people probably necessarily care about building them locally. And then at the very end, he's got a Docker Compose where he just runs them all together. So let me just share my screen here, and I'll show you what kind of my notes were. And I thought for anybody who didn't have a working Docker setup and just wanted to kind of play with it, I can show what the output would look like. We can actually run it on my machine and share my screen and kind of dissect the output a little bit and see what it's actually doing, because it is interesting to see sort of firsthand what it looks like when each of these nodes get run. And also I'll give a shout out to Raj. He found there's a bug in the book, which helped me, because when I got to that spot, I was able to not have to dig around. He already posted something in our Discord channel that had a link to where the fix was. So I'll talk about that fix too. There was already a PR to fix it, but it hasn't been merged yet, so it's not in the book yet. Okay, so let me see how to share my screen. I think it's that one. No, it's not that one. It's that one. Okay, can everybody see my browser screen here? It should say LNbook.
Yep.
Okay, so this is just real briefly what I'm going to show, and I have a window here too. Oh, you're not going to see the window though. Let me just switch to this other thing. I'm going to share the terminal window, not the notes window. I'll put a link actually to the notes window if anybody wants to just follow along or try it if you've already got Docker installed. Where'd it go? Is it this one? Yeah. Okay, so you should see a terminal window now. Do you see yeah, okay, that's it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So then let me post the notes. So I just made a little just a very, very abbreviated version of all that chapter in terms of what the commands are to just get it running. And it's also a link in there to the pull request that has the fix. So let me drop that in the chat over here. So if anyone wants to take a look at that. So, okay, so I'm just gonna run through it and we'll, there we go. There's that. Right. So the first step, like I said, was you have to have Docker installed. So if you had trouble with Docker, that was kind of a necessary thing to get. And then, of course, Git. And then if you wanted to compile it, there were all the tools needed to compile it. So I just went with Docker. And in the very end, he's got, so I've already checked out the repository. So I've got a directory here called LNbook, which is this part is the actual repo, and then sorry, this part is the actual repo, And then, he tells you basically go to the code folder, and then within the code folder is a Docker folder where he's got all of his Docker stuff. This actual pull request, the 688 LN book pull request, it's actually changing something in C Lightning where there was an older image, I guess. The image that was mentioned didn't actually exist. So that was what had to be changed. And then once all that's there, it's actually very easy. You just have to type, you have to go to the right directory. So you're in the Docker directory and you see there's this Docker compose YAML file. And if we look to see what's in that file, it basically, all of the other parts of the chapter where he goes through each server, he has that same information all combined into this one Docker compose file, which sets up the basic network that they run on, as well as the command to start, or the image, the container image, and then the ports that have to be exposed. And then he names them also. So he's got Bob Alice. So Alice is running Alice is running LND, the LND image that was built. Then Bob is running C Lightning. Chan is running Eclair, and Dinah is running LND also. So it's basically just a combined script with all of those that start up on their own. So to start it, you just have to type Docker up. Oops, no, Docker compose up. And it's going to take a while. But the next step is so basically he's really automated it all. So Bitcoin D starts up, it mines a bunch of blocks on the regtest network. So it's sort of a little test network. So it mines, I think, 101 blocks. And then every 10 seconds, it's going to mine another block, sort of simulating a Bitcoin network. Then for each of the clients, they're going to, each of the client containers, or each of the Lightning Docker images, actually talks RPC to the Bitcoin D daemon and gets it to send them some Bitcoin out of its wallet. So that starts out each of the Lightning nodes with some Bitcoin. And then they, once they get that, they're able to build channels to each other. So the channels haven't happened yet, but they have at this point received some Bitcoin. Now, for anybody who wasn't aware or didn't see that in the chapter, the reason that he mines 101 blocks is because freshly mined blocks can't be spent until they are aged 100 blocks. So until we get the 101st block, we have no Bitcoin that can actually be spent in a transaction. So it's still sort of starting up. So while this is going on in this tab, hopefully you'll be able to see if I make another tab. Do you guys see my other tab? Because it's going to run in parallel.
You mean another terminal tab?
Yeah, do you see a new terminal tab?
You haven't tabbed over yet.
I think the
How about
connection's a little choppy, like the spinning wheel at the top of the window isn't spinning very well for us.
Oh, that's interesting. But you can see the text running down the side.
I mean, not really, no. I mean, occasionally.
Oh, that's not good. It's supposed to be on fiber here. Let me see how my connection looks.
That's just me, though. I don't know if everyone else is the same.
Yeah, I mean, it is scrolling pretty fast. I mean, it's kind of slowed down now.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a frame or two every couple seconds.
Okay. But you said you're not seeing the second tab. Let me reconnect so you can see, because the first tab isn't as important as this new tab, because I'm going to run some commands now on the Lightning servers. So let me stop the share and restart it.
So I don't know if this is helpful, but I've noticed sometimes that I feel like Jitsi sometimes runs into problems when it's like sharing a window of a specific application, not the entire
better
desktop.
to share the whole screen. Yeah, let me try. I'll try the whole screen. That'll make it easier.
I've ran into issues with that with Figma before.
Okay, we'll try this whole screen and see if that helps. And I can also put that up. Okay, so you should see my whole screen now, including this this terminal window. Just gonna. The only problem now is it's gonna
much improved.
Oh, good. Okay, nice. Okay, So now I'm gonna, so we've done Docker Compose up. So now I'm gonna just run some commands to check the progress of each of these containers. So this is another kind of Docker trick where you can execute a command. So here we're going to execute in the Alice container, which is running which is running LND. So it's got the lncli command saying reg test network and get info. And then if we just run that command, actually, let's take this part off. We'll get all the info for this node, this Alice node. And the part we really care about for this next step is we want to see the block height. So we see that this node is synced up to the Bitcoin network up to 123, so it's above 101. So it's ready. This node is ready to go. And then I'm just going to do the rest, but I'm going to actually parse it out using this JQ command, which parses the JSON output and just shows me one element. So I just want the block height element for each of these nodes just to make sure they're all ready to go. I actually already made the mistake once when I did this where I didn't wait for it to go long enough, and then of course it fails. So yeah, as long as, I've been talking enough where they should all be plenty far along. Yep. Okay, so we're block 128. Things move fast. And now, so then he's got this other script that sets up the channels. And if anybody who read the chapter, it's basically going to just go make a channel from Alice to Bob, and then Bob to Chan, Chan to Dinah, and then Dinah is going to make an invoice, and then Alice is going to pay that invoice. So I'll run that script, and we should be able to see it as it goes along. I did have this fail once also, and I had to run it one more time. So it's not perfect. Like it basically set up all the channels, but then it wasn't able to route for some reason. Not 100% sure.
Or after this runs, can you open up the script? Because there's some stuff happening in here that I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, good idea. Sure. Actually, I can, since you're seeing the whole screen, I can open another tab. Or actually, let me do this. Okay, you guys can see the script here. So yeah, that's a good point. We can walk through what it's actually doing and then see what the outputs look like. So we can see first, is there anything specific you wanted to check, Paul?
Well, yeah, just that distinction between, see where it says Echo setting up channels. When Alice sets up a channel with Bob, there's two steps. There's the open channel step, which is like what I would think about more often. Like that's how I think of Lightning, is that's what you're doing. You're opening a channel, you have an amount that you want to open and a peer you want to open with. But the step before there is connect, and that's setting up a peer-to-peer networking connection with Bob. Right. And I think that's some stuff I've been playing around. I'm part of the Impervious Hackathon, and that's like a really easy way for something in Lightning to fail is if two peers don't know how to talk to each other. Even if everything else cryptographically should work, you have to have the peer-to-peer networking connected.
Yeah, that's a good question. So this connect is actually setting up the peer-to-peer networking. So even if you didn't have an open channel, you would still be receiving, you'd be receiving like the flood messages and things like that, right? Is that kind of like what you're getting?
Like the gossip and stuff.
Yeah, the gossip, those sort of things.
And what I don't know for certain is if you have to have Bob as one of your direct peer-to-peer networking peers to open a channel with Bob. I believe that's the case. I don't think you would want to gossip about how you're thinking about opening a channel with Bob. You'd want to connect to Bob directly, but you have to know it's like it's all the networking problems that all this like peer-to-peer software struggles to fix. Where that just knowing an IP address might not be enough. You have to be able to traverse the internet to find Bob and set up that connection.
And my understanding was the gossip doesn't necessarily even have IP addresses, because I mean, it doesn't really need IP addresses because each of your peers, anybody who's got a peer to Bob, like you're basically here in the connect, you're saying that this Bob address, which is, they say address, but that's not the IP address, right? Bob address is actually its public key, right? So it's saying this pub key is associated with this IP, the Bob, which confused me at first. I'm like, well, where did Bob come from? But that's because we're running in Docker. Docker sets up its own little DNS and it gives that's really Bob's IP. So it's saying Bob's public key is associated with Bob's IP. So then, then I can then open up a channel.
I just tried one thing, and that is like if you run an open channel without the connect statement before it, then the client will complain something like the Bob's address is not found, or I guess like there is some kind of database that it maintains after the connect step where it says like, okay, I know about this pub key and I can like make connection and talk to this pub key. That's what I think that this connect step is establishing. And also this connect step only needs to be run once. If you run connect twice, then the client will again complain that this address is already connected.
That's interesting. So I wonder, like here, if we're on Bob's node, or let's see if we're on Chan's node, and I could try to open up a connection from, or let's see if I try to open up a connection from I'm trying to think, like two hops away. Like
you can do it from Chan to Alice, and then Chan will not know about Alice, and then if you try to open a connection directly without connecting, then it will complain.
I see. So even though Alice is connected to Bob, Bob connected to Chan can't open a channel to Alice unless he connects
sure,
first.
Like they might have like gossiped about themselves in between. So that also.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering. We can try that in a minute. Just we'll just let this script finish, and then I should have the terminal back, and I can try that. Right. So this is what happened to me last time. I don't know if anybody else got this, but the first time I ran this script, I actually got this no route failure, and I don't know if it's I didn't wait long enough. Maybe there has to be enough gossip or something out there.
It happened to me also, and I had to run it second time to get it passed.
Okay, yeah, so that's what I had to do too. So if I run it again, it should complete with a very non-intuitive message, which is the failure. We want to see the failure reason none, which he explains in the book is expected. Yeah.
See, there is that error code at the top, like it's saying already connected to peer. So the second time you're running that connect script, it's complaining in that way.
Right, but it doesn't. I guess the script just continues anyway.
Yeah, it just continues. It doesn't fail.
Yeah.
So is this like maybe a race condition? Like it tries to route a payment before the channels are totally. Because I know isn't there a wait? There's like a 60-second wait in there because you're waiting for like some number of blocks to go by. Oh yeah, wait for channel establishment, 60 seconds for 6 blocks. So the channel doesn't really exist until it's confirmed. It's not like as far as I understand, it's not like Bitcoin where you can recklessly spend some Bitcoin after 0 confirmations just because you think it's going to be fine. You actually have to wait for the channel. So you can't route a payment until the channel's actually. So maybe it just doesn't wait long enough that first time.
Well, like, I was gonna go back and see here. Maybe some of the channels opened, but it's not the final ones. Maybe that's because it says like so. So this is the second time I ran it. So it says, where'd it go? Bob. This is the second one. So from Alice to Bob was already connected, and then from Chan to Dinah. It did have to, it's already connected, but let's see, was there a channel? Okay, so it looks like, I got 2 errors on Alice to Bob, right? I got they already connected, plus there already existed a channel. So,
Alice differs from client to client. So Chan might be running a different client, so that will display the error message differently.
Oh, okay, different errors. That's true. So wait, Alice to Bob. Because what I really want to see next is Bob to Chan, which I don't see at all. Maybe where did Bob to Chan go? Oh, here it is. Sorry, Bob to Chan. So it looks like, I mean, yeah, the message is a little different, but it's still sort of the same, that there's already a channel for Bob to Chan. And then for Chan to Dinah, it's hard to say. It's funny, so this in flight. I mean, ultimately, this one does work. If we go to at the end, the payment finally worked. Let's see, what's this last message here? Oh, I see. This is the payment message. So yeah, it's saying that this is that payment from Alice to Dinah. I guess that's what he prints out last. And it's saying it's a 10,000 sats, succeeded. But I guess we can look here at the hops. So this would be the Alice to Bob. Right. And then
I also found another better way to look at the routes. Like in the script, there is an configuration flag called JSON. If you remove that JSON configuration, that will print in some good way the route that Alice took from.
Okay,
from
so that would be, I guess, this last invoice
that will
command.
be, add invoice a little bit lower. Wait.
Oh, I see here. This JSON one
pay
here.
Invoice and remove that JSON thing.
Okay, let me try that.
It should put the output in a good tabular format.
Nice. I guess we still want the rest. Oh, I'm not going to have, I have to get that invoice, Dinah invoice. Actually, I guess I should run this first. I can do this one. Oh, yeah. Whoops. Maybe if my screen was bigger, it would look better. Let's try that. Oops, what
Yeah,
I do?
so in the table, you can
Oh, I
see
did the pay invoice.
there
I
is
see.
this route command.
Did I do the wrong command?
No, it worked.
Oh, I see. But it was a pay invoice command. That's why it worked that time.
So in the route column, you can see like the
This one,
three
I
hops
see.
that it took.
This column, you mean?
Yeah. So this Loudent Orange or whatever that name is, that's something I guess the Docker gave the name to itself. It gives some random name to some containers. And the last thing is a public key. That should be the public key of Alice.
This one. Okay. We can double check that actually. Because if we go back to the script, Alice address.
Or is that Alice's alias?
Let's see. It doesn't. Unless
No,
it's.
it doesn't.
Can you get her alias?
Hey, what's the alias? That would be. Let's see. We just grab everything about info.
It's
Alice,
instead
right?
of dot pub key, it's dot alias.
Okay, I'll just grab it all and we'll see. Oop. Somewhere.
Oh, it's a payment from Alice to whatever D is, Dina. So it should be Dina's pub key. The last pub key should be the one who received the payment.
I'm not sure what I got wrong in this command here. Just do alias. We'll see what's there. Oops, so I messed that up. Yep, that's it. It's the alias. Oh, no, it isn't. Wait, O22B. I think the alias is just a part of the address, part of the pub key.
Look up Dinah's alias. It's
Okay.
at least it's the right length.
Yeah. It looks like it's a subset, but it's probably the right thing. O2EB19. Yeah, that's it. It's Dinah. I guess Dinah, because this was, I see. So Eclair was if we go back to what everything was it here? So Chan was an Eclair node. And then Bob was a lightning. What was Bob? I guess C lightning. So maybe this is the route. This is maybe a C lightning, the C lightning node, the Eclair node, and then the final node. But it doesn't show what Alice was. I guess it doesn't show Alice because Alice wasn't part of the route. Maybe.
That makes sense.
Just the first hop. Yeah, because it's basically 3 nodes in terms of routing it. It's kind of weird though. I'm kind of curious where these words come from. I mean, Eclair, I guess, makes sense, but this loud. I wonder if that's like maybe the code word they give, the code name they give their software.
I think maybe I feel like I got a similar, possibly random name for my C lightning node. Like either, like I think it's either Docker passed that in when it set up, or C lightning chose a random because I didn't give it a name or something like that.
As like a host name, because I would have expected. What's that?
I was going to say, I think it's Docker that does that. If you so like there's a command earlier in the book that's like or earlier in the chapter that's like to start Bitcoin D for the first time, Docker run -- name Bitcoin D ln/Bitcoin D. So like if you omit the -- name, I'll paste it in the chat what I'm talking about. When you're doing that command that is pasted in the chat, if you omit the name flag, then it will assign a random name to the image when it starts. So I think if it was, anyways. That's it.
But somehow that ended up as the alias of the C lightning node. It's not just the name of the Docker image, it's also the alias.
Okay, my bad. I
of the C
misunderstood.
lightning node. I believe.
So it could just be that it's just defaulting.
Around.
Maybe it's just defaulting to whatever the host name is, and that's a random host
one
name.
interesting thing would be to just go and make the same command for Eclair or see what whoever that was, and see what that get info command returns. And if the alias is changed, then the client will return the get info command with that alias.
You mean for which one?
For C.
Like Alice or somebody?
C was.
Oops.
C was.
The C lightning was.
Not the C lightning, the
Bob?
Eclair one, or you can try the C.
Oh,
lightning
Eclair.
also.
Yeah, we could try. We could try Eclair. Well, let's see. Oh, because you wanted to see the name. Well, yeah. So the one I guess we don't know. The one we got the weird name for in the route is the one before Eclair. So that would have been Bob. So let's see what Bob thinks. What info Bob has. Maybe it mentions what what it is there. Oh yeah, alias. Okay. I guess we don't still know what that is. I mean, if you know, that's weird.
It seems like C Lightning is doing it on its own, and
Just making it up.
I'm curious why it's doing that, because in my system I'm just getting the pub keys.
What do you mean you're just getting the pub keys? You're not. I mean, when you do that command.
I mean, the alias is like that specific segment of the node ID or the public key. Like it came from Dina.
So even for Bob, it's like something like that, sort of part of the
something
ID.
like that. It's coming.
That's interesting. I mean, we could also.
My randomly assigned C Lightning alias is Lightning Seagull.
Huh.
If that's any help.
Oops. I was just going to see if I can shell in to Bob. I don't know if there's any. Yeah, the host name is just kind of random. I guess it's the container ID. So yeah, it's not. I don't think it's anything coming from the node itself. It must be something coming from. Yeah, C Lightning is making something up there.
Hey, also Caesar posted in the chat. Alias, a string that represents the alias of the node by default is calculated from the public key node ID. This is just for fun. The name can be anything, is not unique. And he's got a link on Lightning, read the docs.io that explains a little about this.
Oh, cool. Okay. I'll go back and have to read that.
Oh, nice. I can confirm it's happening for C Lightning also for me. I just turned all my nodes into LNDs for simplicity. That's why I'm just seeing the pub key parts.
Okay. Okay, so basically, if there's anything else anybody wanted to play with, this was basically what I got through. It was just running it and kind of playing around with it, sending it some commands, getting that script to run. And that's interesting that, you know, it's kind of nice now that we have it here, we can just, you know, figure out other commands that throughout it. Probably when we get into other chapters, if we want to play with these nodes, this will be a nice, easy way to bring them up and get a little test network going. You know, very basic test network, because obviously we had to run the script twice. I guess that might be an interesting project if anybody wanted to figure out why that happens. But
all right, Caesar says he played with the different sleep values and found sleep 150 worked.
So okay, let's look at that script.
It says the minimum number to almost work always was sleep 150. That's good.
See.
Almost work always is pretty much.
So that kind of makes
right?
sense. I guess that makes sense because, well, I mean, I don't know why that value makes sense, but basically what it was complaining about was that it didn't have a route, and all of these commands above it are setting up the channels. So there could just be something that had to kind of stabilize after those channels were there before it would work. Does anybody, we could try it actually if you want to. Just look at this and it's just an echo, but we could actually start it all from scratch and just see if we get the same results. Yeah, Docker Compose for testing locally is really awesome because it does all that together for you.
Yeah, I mean, I know for people who are not command line people and are maybe never going to interact with Bitcoin stuff through this, I understand that this just looks almost like gibberish, but this was a very helpful chapter for me because you know, there's so many projects out there that say, well, here is the Docker thing, here's the script, you know, like they'll give you kind of half of what you need to know, but them taking the time in this chapter to give you the basic vocabulary of what you need to do to, you know, like something that is very easy to do is you can start up a Docker container with the same name as one that's already running, you know. So this chapter warns you, like you're probably already running Bitcoin D. If you run one of these scripts that starts up Bitcoin D again, it's going to be mad at you and say, you know, well, you already have, so like, here's how to stop it and or start, you know. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. Also explaining about how, you know, if you do it in Docker, you're going to get, you know, the name of the container is the name of the host name, at least in this Docker Compose environment. So you don't have to worry about typing IP addresses and stuff. You can just kind of use these nice friendly aliases, makes it nice and easy to test.
Also, I learned a lot about JQ. That thing is powerful.
JQ is great.
Yeah. So you can I actually set up some aliases because, you know, like you've been kind of editing these commands and it's a little cumbersome to edit stuff in the command line. So I don't know if you guys have heard of Just. It's kind of like make, but just for kind of running a series of commands, and you can pass a variable. So I have like these variables now that or these like just commands. So I just say like just ln info, and it will run get info. But then I can pass it an argument like just ln info alias, and like it will use JQ to return the alias from that object.
So it's sort of like a shell alias with JSON parsing built in.
No, the JQ is the command that they built into all these environments. That's what's doing the JSON. You're passing an argument to your alias basically. So it's a shell alias that's receiving an argument and that's popping that argument in, you know, where you have dot payment request. So I can look up any single thing by just, I'll put it in the BDK chat.
Okay, cool.
Because I've found that, you know, these really long, cumbersome commands that you would never type are kind of a nice one to like get down as some sort of alias so that they're easy to rerun. Okay,
so I'm going to rerun this script with this 150. We'll check out Caesar's research here. Check his homework. Oh, that's weird. Did I edit the wrong one? Let's set up channels is what I want. Huh. Oh, I see. He didn't give it execute. That's what that was. Yeah, so Caesar, if this, I don't know if this, we'll see if this works for me, but if this is a fix, it might be worth checking to see if there's already a PR somebody else made. If not, you can make a PR on this book and just say, hey, we get credit in the book too, I think. For doing a PR that fixes this.
I don't think that this works as a fix because the output of the command was not consistent.
Okay, so yeah, there's probably
I tested 3 times, and 2 of the 3 times it worked, and in the third time it outputs 2 different failure outputs, like the no root and the failure, the correct failure output.
Yeah, probably the right way, I guess, to fix this would be, rather than just waiting some fixed number of seconds, is to do a loop that checks whatever status we're waiting for. We can do he does that in another part of the script when he's waiting for the, I guess for Bitcoin D to come up. He has a wait until, or an until loop with a sweep in it, where he's checking something on Bitcoin D.
It would be really nice if we did have a solid answer on this, because I mean, from a UX perspective, the problem with Lightning I've had is just mysterious failures. You know, there's just, and I mean, this has already been very helpful, realizing that like if you're having trouble opening a channel with somebody, it might be because of a Bitcoin thing, or it might be because of a gossip network thing, and that's, you know, so even just that distinction. But yeah, I was opening up some testnet node connecting to each other yesterday. I got them to connect to each other, but like in a failed sort of way. So saw the alias of its peer as no node found was the alias. And so they thought they'd connected to each other, but they clearly hadn't done it wrong. So I had to like basically turn them off, turn them back on again, and then reconnect them, and then finally got it to work.
Which daemon was this? This was LND or?
Yes, these are LND.
Okay.
And I was using ThunderHub. I can show you guys if it's not too much of a tangent, the ThunderHub UI for some of this peer connection.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I don't mind doing that. Oh yeah, actually, I got a failure too. Yeah,
yes, but do you see the failure reason none? That is the correct output, and then the failure reason null.
Oh yeah, so it looks like that's interesting. So, Well, yeah, because here it's saying no reason because it hasn't failed yet, like it's still in flight. Yeah, that's a good question. Like, when am I seeing this twice? I'm seeing the exact same output. If I check that script again, the last thing he's doing is, what's it? I guess it's paying the invoice, but I'm not sure why. So we do the sleep, and then it's assuming everything's set up right. It tries to pay the invoice. What I'm seeing on the output is the in-flight, and then the failure. That's a little strange.
You can check the balance of the channels of Alice, so you will know if the payment got through or not.
You mean, okay, let's try that.
Yeah, just go into Alice's shell and LNCLI list channels.
List channels, okay. Like that altogether? Okay. So let's see. Active, capacity.
Yeah, you can see remote balance is 0, so no fund has been transferred.
I'm sorry, where do you see that?
Remote balance is like on 7th, 6th or 7th.
Oh, there, I see, remote balance. I see, so this was, so that's an interesting thing to look at. So local balance, they mean what you funded it with, or which part of the funding amount you still have. Is that right? And which amount has gone to your channel partner?
Yeah. So basically, because Alice opened the channel, so Alice has all the channel capacity in his local balance, and his remote counterpart doesn't have any balance on his own. So Alice cannot receive fund until his remote balance goes above 0.
Okay. Yeah, that's where these screens are. I mean, these kind of direct outputs, you really see the nitty-gritty. That's kind of have to map their nomenclature to kind of our prior understanding of what, how channel capacity is allocated. Okay. Did you want to look at the ThunderHub now? I'd kind of like to see that.
Yeah, let's see if I can. Let's see.
I'll stop sharing, and then you can share your screen if you want.
Hey, real quick, during this kind of segue, I was going to stop the recording now so that we can kind of do free talk time. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah, sounds good.